before we head to CBS News in just a moment. And on this date in 1781, Los Angeles, speaking of the devil, was founded by 44 Spanish settlers in the Bahia de las Fumas, Valley of the Smokes. That's an Indian name. Its original name was El Pueblo de Nuestra Senora La Reina de Los Angeles de Borneculica. Whew! Boy, the only thing worse than my German is my Spanish. And what exactly were they smoking? Glad they just narrowed it down to Los Angeles. So much easier to remember. Anyway, it was founded on this date in 1781. And they had a traffic jam by the end of the week, I understand. Well, it's time to go back in time with the Associated Press and their overmodulated levels.
September 4th, 1957, in Little Rock, Arkansas, the first major fight over racial integration of America's schools. Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus orders the state's National Guard to block 9 black students from entering the all-white Central High School. Weeks later, hundreds of U.S. Army paratroopers escort the students into the school under an order from President Dwight Eisenhower. Also, that same year,
this is the Edsel, unlike any other car you've ever seen. This is the Edsel.
Ford's new model, the Edsel, makes its ill-fated debut in auto showrooms across the United States. It's a massive flop, with the car-shopping public becoming a lasting symbol of corporate failure. 1781. In present-day California, Spanish settlers found Los Angeles, now the second largest city in the United States. 1888. George Eastman gets a patent for his roll film camera and registers his trademark, Kodak. 1995. In New York, attorney William Kunstler, who spoke up for the politically unpopular, dies of cancer at the age of 76. During his career, Kunstler represented clients from anti-Vietnam War radicals to suspects in the first World Trade Center bombing. 1972. American swimmer Mark Spitz wins a record 7th gold medal during a single Olympics at the Summer Games in Munich in what's then West Germany. 2006, Steve Irwin, better known as television's beloved crocodile hunter, dies after a stingray's barb pierced his heart while diving on the Great Barrier Reef. Irwin was 44. And in 1981, singer and actress Beyonce Knowles is born in Houston. Today in history, September 4th, Diane Kepley, The Associated Press.
That's the thing I don't like about modern-day TV themes, if they even have one for a show. They're usually short and way too damn fast. It doesn't really set the mood. But Modern Family, from what I've seen of it, it is a pretty funny show. It's time for markets on this Wednesday. Cue the music maestro, and away we go. All right. Yeah, I can dig it. How about you? U.S. markets opened higher on Tuesday morning following Monday's Labor Day holiday with an upbeat reaction to European and Asian PMI reports. ISM data for the U.S. rose unexpectedly, and July new construction spending also rose more than expected. House Speaker John Boehner's statement of support for President Obama's call to action in Syria cut into early gains, however, did not wipe them out. European markets closed mixed today, while Asian markets closed higher and Latin American markets closed lower. Elsewhere, in market information on this 4th day of September, Wednesday's calendar includes reports from automakers on August sales, speeches by Minneapolis Fed President and San Francisco Fed President, and the following data releases and events all taking place. They include Mortgage Bankers Association purchase applications, international trade, quarterly services survey, the 4-week bill auction, and the beige book. Here are the closing levels for Tuesday, S&P 500 closed higher gaining nearly 7 points at 1,639.75. Dow Jones Industrials average up nearly 24 points at 14,833. The NASDAQ Composite closed higher at 3,612. 10-year Treasury note rose nearly 3%. Or check that closed at nearly 3%, down half a percentage point. Gold closed $50.90 higher at $1,412. The euro dollar closed a little bit lower at $1.32. Stocks on the move for today. Nokia Corporation is up nearly 32% at $5.13 a share on the announcement that Microsoft will acquire the Finnish firm's mobile phone business for $7.2 billion. Chinese solar energy stocks are getting a boost again today. And big deals, Verizon Communications will pay $130 billion for the 45% stake in Verizon Wireless by Vodafone Group. And in one of the three largest acquisitions ever, Vodafone was involved in two of them. The most dangerous cities in America. That's another story. But in all, 49 stocks put up a new 52-week highs today, while 55 stocks posted new lows. That's a brief look at market information. We'll have the CBS World News Roundup in just a moment. Now, with more market information, we switch things over to APM.
Why the United Auto Workers has been talking with management at a non-union car plant in Tennessee.
Marketplace Morning Report is produced in association with the University of Southern California.
From APM in New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the global perspective on business and economics. It would be something short of joining a labor union, but workers in Volkswagen's factory in Tennessee are expected to hear this week about a bid to give them possibly a greater voice with management. Sources have told the Reuters news agency that the president of the United Auto Workers Union has just held talks with VW about importing something else from Germany, something called workers' councils. It's not clear if VW supports this idea for its Tennessee operation, nor is it clear VW employees there would ever ratify it, but it might give a small foothold to unions in a southern car plant that are typically non-union. And what is a German-style workers' council? Well, the BBC's man in Berlin, Steve Evans, spent many a year on the labor beat. Steve, thanks for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Help me understand, what is a German-style works council?
A works council is the supervisory board that oversees the company. That supervisory board doesn't run the company day to day, but it does choose who those people are, the chief executive, the chief financial officer, and it can call people to account. I suppose the pros of that are the workforce is taken on board so that if there's difficult change ahead, it will say, OK, we see that that plant has got to close, but we don't want it to be done on Friday night, and them to be told on Thursday it will be done in this kind of way.
But critics of the system would say what?
Detractors would say, if you have union people involved in the boardroom, well, then maybe the most brutal decisions don't get taken.
So a less antagonistic relationship between management and workers with these workers' councils, but at some level, trade union light, L-I-T-E.
Yeah, they have the trade unions as well. But within a company, I know a director of BMW, for example, and he's a proper director. You know, he's a union guy who got elected by the people around him. They trust him not to sell them out. He drives around in a great big BMW. He parks in the BMW management car park. He is a BMW director. And through that, he's privy to a lot of information. So there has to be a degree of trust on both sides.
So these works councils can have some utility. BBC's Steve Evans in Berlin. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
VW workers have these workers' councils everywhere in the world except China and this VW plant in Chattanooga. There's also news that car sales continue to get hit hard by the ongoing financial mess in Europe. Despite the fact that statisticians say Europe is emerging from recession, unemployment continues to run high. In France, for instance, VW, Ford, and Peugeot sales in August fell 11%. We'll have word on North American car and truck sales later today. Now let's check in the numbers. In London, the FT100 stock index right now down 0.5%. The Nikkei in Japan went up 0.5%, with the key stock index in Shanghai rising 0.2% overnight. Dow and S&P futures for the U.S. are down at the moment, but those for the Nasdaq are up.
Show Marketplace how much you like us. Stay connected to our hosts, reporters, and top stories on Facebook. Find us at facebook.com/APM Marketplace.
It's not a trend yet. Perhaps experiment is a better term. In some limited cases, what people do and who they friend on social media could affect their ability to borrow money. Patty Hirsch, Marketplace's senior producer of personal finance, is here. Thanks for digging into this, Patty.
Thank you, David.
So I just checked my Facebook, and the most compromising photo I found was me in khaki shorts posing in front of a big model of the Starship Enterprise in the future birthplace of Captain Kirk in Iowa. Is that going to hurt my official credit score?
Well, maybe not that photograph, and maybe not yet, all right? The big three credit rating agencies are pretty adamant when we call them. They do not use social media in any way to determine credit scores. In fact, they say they do not accept any kind of self-reported data, which is the kind that you would find in social media.
But some people are using social media to establish credit worthiness?
Yeah, but these are small lenders, and for the most part, they're not based here in the US. There's a company called Creditech in Germany, lends small amounts to startups. And there's this company which is based here called Cabbage with a K. But it's not like it's Bank of America or JP Morgan looking at your Twitter feed before they decide to give you a car loan.
But what's the rationale from these lenders in looking at social media to figure out if I'm a risky fellow or not?
So it's this birds of a feather flock together theory, right? That deadbeat borrowers who are always late on monthly payments are more likely to hang out with other deadbeats than with responsible types. You know, follow this logic, right? And you could determine whether someone's likely to make the rent or the car payments by the way their online buddies behave online.
The word insidious starts to come to mind.
It gets worse, actually. The German company rates your risk profile according to how you fill its form in. You know, whether you use all capitals, how long you spend reading the small print, this kind of stuff. But once all that data is aggregated and stuck together, the lenders say that it does have value in building a profile of the borrower so they can determine, you know, how risky or not they are.
But these are small lenders that you identified. It doesn't sound like it's the wave of the future, or does it?
Not in the short term, certainly. You know, again, the big three credit rating agencies say credit scores only consider information that's on your credit report. But, you know, it's interesting. Nobody wanted to make definitive statements about the future. It is possible that some third-party company might find a way to cull data from social media that could be processed in a way that's useful to the big credit rating agencies, and therefore, of course, to the banks that lend money based on their assessment of how risky we are.
And right now, there are tens of thousands of listeners mentally reviewing their Facebook friends to figure out who might be the credit liability. Patty Hirsch, senior producer, personal finance here at Marketplace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
And there's news that sportswear giant Nike has just won a pile of patents that could lead to a tech-laden golf shirt someday. Bloomberg News noticed the patents first. A fancy Nike shirt might tug at a golfer in certain ways to improve the golf swing, or bark at you to improve an athlete's body position. We always note on patent stories that patents do not always lead to finished products that hit the market. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. APM, American Public Media.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is?
Ariel Castro found dead.
It was suicide. He did hang himself.
Lawmakers begin work on Syria resolution.
A Senate committee vote could come today.
Disaster plans 8 years after Katrina.
Most states still aren't ready.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. Ariel Castro's world of torture and rape began to unravel 4 months ago.
I'm Amanda Berry. I've been on the news for the last 10 years.
This morning, Castro, who held Amanda Berry and 2 other women captive in his Cleveland home, is dead, an apparent suicide in his cell. Not much sympathy in a city shaken by the Castro House of Horrors.
I think he did those girls a favor by taking his own life because he took theirs.
Officials say Castro was found hanging in his cell. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years by a court last month. WBNS TV reporter Tino Ramos at the prison in Orient, Ohio, says an investigation's underway.
Because this was such a high-profile case, Castro was kept away from other inmates for his own safety. Prison officials here tell us that guards would check on him every 30 minutes in staggering intervals. But sometime between those checks, Castro